Hey guys, in this video we'll talk about 222 app for real connections, the plight for affordable healthcare, self-building robot, digital tokenization. Adult friendships are fickle beasts in metros of millions where casual friends are cheap currency. Patuk took a Tinder-like approach to matching potential friends using AI both to connect users and block flirtatious messages. 222 is a social events app that aims to facilitate meaningful and authentic connections, unlike usual dating apps based on external validations. Young people have been robbed of about 2 years of their social life due to the pandemic, and this app aims to bridge that social gap. Cost Plus Drugs, founded by Mark Cuban, is based on a direct-to-consumer model where the company negotiates directly with manufacturers, effectively sidestepping pharmacy benefit managers, also known as PBMs. The company is on a mission to turn the pharmaceutical industry upside down by lessening the cost of life-saving generic drugs tenfold. Mark Cuban believes the markup on common drugs is primarily due to PBMs seeking to turn over the maximum profit. Cost Plus Drugs serve as a proof of concept in rethinking the decades-old pharmaceutical industry to prevent life-threatening diseases from being unaffordable. Lastly, researchers at MIT's Center for Bits and Atoms are working on an ambitious project, designing robots that effectively self-assemble. At the system's center are voxels, a term borrowed from computer graphics, which carry power and data that can be shared between pieces. The pieces form the foundation of the robot, grabbing and attaching additional voxels before moving across the grid for further assembly. Among other things, the robots need to determine how and where to build, when to begin building a new robot, and just generally how to avoid bumping into each other in the process. Here's something for you to think about. Blockchain outfit Quant is teaming up with UST to push the adoption of institutional digital assets, offering technical integration and tokenization services to central and commercial banks and capital markets participants. The partners can help financial institutions adopt digital assets by issuing digital money and tokenizing existing asset classes for greater settlement speed and access to new markets and clients. FTX crash has sparked industry-wide sell-offs that have caused some companies to temporarily suspend trading and others to prepare potential bankruptcy filings. Will blockchain adoption continue to thrive in the current market sentiment? In summary, 222 app introduces strangers in a bid to establish real connections. Mark Cuban breaks medical price ceiling by doing away with PBMs for affordable healthcare. Self-building robot learns to build itself. Partners UST and Quant pushes the adoption of digital tokens in the current market. And now presenting this week's podcast. Hi Jan, and welcome to another podcast. How are you feeling today?
I'm looking forward to our podcast as always, Hannah. Yeah. And we had a successful week last week at the Human Capital Conference here in Malaysia. That was also really exciting for Leadapreneur. So yeah, every week we get a little bit stronger, a little bit better.
Let's talk a little bit about the event, because I think it was very exciting for me. We presented Cosmos to the people for the first time, talking about it and seeing people being amazed with the platform. That was, again, very exciting to me. What about you? What do you have to say about Cosmos being directed towards an innovation metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, it was a dream come true for me to be able to do this, to showcase it and to share what we have. And I think it's something that we've become so familiar with for so long, it's quite ordinary for us. So when we compare it to someone who hasn't seen anything like its capability before, I think it can be really quite wow. And then that ability to see, you know, this is real, right? Because the real challenge is to synchronize the real world stuff with what's shown on the platform. I think, you know, if anyone has ever asked me what's the biggest challenge of building a dashboard, it's synchronizing the dashboard data with what's going on in the real world and making that as real time and effective as possible, right? So that's actually incredibly hard and tricky to figure out how to do. Yes, you can build a great platform. Yes, you can build something that looks awesome, but 3 months later, who's using it? 6 months later, who's using it? 1 year later, who's using it? And often the answer to that is not so many people. So I think what we are really cracking is many very hard problems at the same time and delivering on our promise that we enable innovation at scale. So I think it was really thrilling to sort of turn up as a nobody, right? We're not really that well known, I would say, in KL. We are reasonably well known in the right circles, but we are not like a large brand. And I think that's kind of how I wanted it to be for now, just to stay in stealth mode and build this phenomenal offering. And so then to kind of come out, and we were tucked in the corner. We weren't in such a prestigious place, and then we had so much interest, so much curiosity, and that really was what was fantastic to see. And of course, the team coming together and our awesome artwork, lots of Ferrero Rocher, which is excellent as it should be.
Did you still have
And
some remaining? What did you do?
I don't know. I was actually going to ask you. I don't know quite where they went.
I wasn't there. I left early on Tuesday.
Yeah, you
I was
left,
actually
right?
gonna ask him, like, can I have some Ferrero Rocher, please? Because I didn't eat that much.
Now that you say that, I should check where they are. Oh dear, there's
Oh
boxes
dear.
of
Where
Ferrero
are our
missing.
chocolates?
I might have tucked them away. I actually thought about that over the weekend. I was like, where are they? Yeah, I'll try and dig them out. But yeah, I think overall, and I hope this is the first step of many. I think kind of that ability to introduce Cosmos and the leadapreneur concept, and to showcase what we do in a way that's engaging and compelling, right? Using our visuals, using our team's passion is a fantastic way to position leadapreneur and introduce the leadapreneur concept really overall. So I think we'll go from strength to strength. Hopefully one day we'll be able to, no, not just hopefully, we will be at Singapore FinTech Festival in the future. That would be like the next step up, and to showcase what we can do there would be an extraordinary opportunity for us, and to really keep taking us forward to meeting the next level of client, right? And to meeting the right kind of client. I think that's also really important. It's about working with partners who are interested and excited about what we offer, and building true partnership with us. I think that's very much the model, because that's what we really are now as a metaverse. And metaverse takes time to build. It's not just sort of, a metaverse is not like a training program. You run a training program once a year, maybe once every 2 years, as and when you want it, and that's fine, but that's not going to create an innovation culture. And I think the metaverse really is the way to address the challenge of creating, and most importantly, sustaining culture, right? By building a community of praxis. And so the metaverse is sort of the architecture and infrastructure of sustaining a culture. So a metaverse that enables innovation is going to enable innovation to keep on going, because it's going to be organizing the innovation activities regardless of if too many key people leave or not leave, right? So I think that's really sort of one of the insights for companies and those who are interested in company culture, is that that's really one of the big promises of the metaverse, that it takes something intangible like culture, and it enables it to be shaped in a much more direct way. In a way, to kind of say it's like taking a computer game and just, if you play someone like something like World of Warcraft, right? And you think about how that organizes the activity of going on raids and going on quests and building up your character, but also participating in the community, right? I think at its largest point, World of Warcraft was at least 30 million people. I think it was up to 60 million people, right? I mean, that's a medium-sized country, right? So that's a lot of people coming together and organizing themselves. And so if you just look beyond the sense of the game there, and that's where I think what Metaverse does, is it takes it from game to real world, right? So you're participating in a real world where you're doing real work as opposed to just playing the game. And I think that's an important difference as well. A game is a game, but doing innovation can be game-like or gamified, but it's still real work. You're making real impact. You're helping to make lives better. You're helping to improve outcomes. So that, I think, is through the conversations I was having, something that stood out to me as sort of one of the real benefits of the metaverse concept. That this way of making work engaging and meaningful, of being able to supply it at scale, of systematically organizing culture and structuring it. That those are some of the things that I think have been overlooked in the metaverse conversation, but I think are particularly important around it.
have a question around Cosmos being the metaverse, because on the way, I think I talked to you before going to the event, and I was telling you that my definition of a metaverse is a virtual reality where you sort of kind of put a VR headset and you can see structures around you. It's a completely another reality. And when I was talking to Hashim, he was saying me his definition of metaverse is a place where you can buy a plot of land, very much the Web 3.0 version. But Cosmos is very much different from those two definitions. How would you explain that to someone? Why is Cosmos a metaverse?
I think a metaverse is where meaning is made. It's where we go to make meaningful work happen, but in a digital sense. So it's a digital destination, yes, but it's a place where we create meanings, where we participate with our identity. And so I think a really useful way to sort of differentiate that, because those are some big intangible terms there. Let's look at a platform first, right? Amazon or Grab, Uber, right? So such a defining feature of early Industry 4.0 tech, right? But I emphasize that word early, right? You go on there to transact. You want to do some shopping. You want to go from A to B. You push some buttons. You get the solution delivered to you. So that's a transaction, but it's not meaningful to you. When I order my Grab food, it's not meaningful to my identity. And it matters that I get my food, but it doesn't change who I am as a person, right? At a foundational level. And so that's sort of both the benefit and the limitation of the platform. Whereas I think the metaverse offers a place where I can go as an individual, and truly as an individual, right? And participate as an individual, or at least how I choose to individualize myself, right? How I choose to present myself, also an interesting point there. But in some sense, it is presenting my individuality, right? Like we were just having a call with one of our colleagues, right? With our client, and she had in her background, an avatar with pink hair. And she was sharing how that's her, that's the metaverse character she created for herself and identifies with, right? So you can see that that's a powerful sense of self-expression there. So I think the metaverse enables us to turn up with our identity, right? And I think maybe there's an ability to understand there's a plurality of identities there, right? In the same way that you can log into different games, and in one game you're like a brave warrior, and in another game you're maybe a magician, a shaman, and then the other one you're a king running an army, whatever it might be, right? But there's different identities. So I don't think there's anything psychotic in that. I think it's quite natural actually that we have different identities. And so I think what the metaverse does is it allows for the formalization of identity. Like, so in Leadapreneur programs, you are an agile warrior, you're an agile pathfinder, you are an agile strategos, for example, a general, right? So these are different identities. They're built on the core Leadapreneur architecture. And so I think looping that back into what I think a metaverse is about, is it's about a place where you can express yourself as an identity. And I think the key phrase for me is create things you believe are important for people you care about. So let's break that down, right? Create things you believe are important for people you care about. And this has been what I identified in my research. This is the key thing you need to do to make meaning. Meaning is made through that sentence. If you don't do that sentence, you cannot make meaning. If you do those things, you will make meaning. And so what it specifically is being produced is a certain kind of information, and that's as follows. So first, you're a creator. You're not an enslaved animal. You're not a laborer. You're not a machine, a cog in the machine. You're a divine individual creator who's turning up with their full sense of self. So you're creating things. You believe that they are important. So you're working on something worthy, not something trivial or useless, right? And you're doing it in service of something, of people that you care about, something beyond yourself, beyond who, just your simple egoic identity. And so when we create things we believe are important for people we care about, we will naturally make whatever we do will be meaningful for us, whatever we create. And so metaverses, now, of course, that sentence is individualized to every individual. And so a metaverse allows that. It provides the reality architecture. Traditional society doesn't allow that because there's rules in traditional societies, right? And how we can and cannot turn up and participate. For example, could you turn up with pink hair to the office, maybe in a traditional office? I've never tried that, but it might be difficult, right? So, and that's not a criticism of traditionalism. It's just to say that the rule architecture makes that difficult. So I think what metaverses allow is a much broader range of rule architectures of places to go and participate in. And so when you look at what's important for innovation, diversity is essential. Diversity is foundational for creativity. And so the metaverse allows a place to innovate at scale, in part because individuals can turn up as individuals and participate as individuals by welcoming their different identities. Now, what is it that they're participating in? What on earth are you doing in the metaverse? Well, you're not playing a game. Because if you want to play a game, you go play a game. But if you want to create things that you believe are important for people you care about, then you come to the metaverse. And that's what I think the metaverse really is. It's this whole new, it's like you went to the office to do work. But we should bear in mind that before 1950, most people did not go to the office to do work. Most people went to the factory, right? And before that, most people went to the farm. And so, or the fields at least, right? And so I think what we're seeing in the emergence of this metaverse concept is a whole new frontier of where work gets done and even what is classified as work, what it means to do work. And that's really the frontier of it. And when we look at technologies like VR, those are just interfaces and gateways to get to that space. You know, in the same way that your smartphone is not the digital realm itself. It's a gateway to the digital realm. It's a very good gateway, but it's only the gateway, right? And that's, you know, I think a VR headset is a more primitive version of that. So ultimately, I think the power of engaging with the metaverse is more at the philosophical level and understanding it as how it affects humans as humans and what we do in our working lives, rather than just as a technological escapade.
Okay, so in a nutshell, what I will say is Metaverse is all about individuality and creating your own identity in a place where you believe you're going to create something for the people you care about.
Yes. And so it's this hybrid environment where it's about making things matter. And that could still be fun, right? It can still be somewhat trivial in the sense that, you know, it doesn't have to be world changing, right? It's not all about being serious, but it's not completely play. It's not completely irrelevant. Like if I play a game of Counter-Strike, yeah, it's fun. And if I'm in competitive mode, it matters in some sense that my score goes up and down a little bit, but in the end, it doesn't matter at all, right? To my career, for example, my life and all these things. Whereas I think in a metaverse, that there will be more permanence or impact to it. And I think that will be its great attractor and attraction. And we can customize as individuals how we wish to appear in the metaverse, and indeed in which metaverse we wish to appear in. And so what I think we're then going to end up seeing, and this is something that's really started to, you know, come through to me quite strongly, is I think we're going to see this shift is at the moment we see the smartphone as the platform. But I think it's really going to be about the person becoming the platform. And so what metaverses do is they allow the structured organization of identity. So what that means is that when you have a smartphone, you have apps and you open different apps to do different things. Like I want to book a flight, for example, I might use the AirAsia app to book a flight, right? And so that gives me different capabilities. But we can take this one step further and think of a person as a platform, and we can install different apps on them. Now, this isn't the same as just teaching somebody something, because just because you teach them marketing doesn't mean they can do marketing, right? Right? Just because they teach them about leadership doesn't mean they can lead. And so I think what we do with Leadapreneur is we go one step further and we allow people to install apps in themselves, basically, and that gives them that capability. You want to be a leaderpreneur, that's the core architecture, right? That's our iOS or Android. And then you can install different apps on that, Agile Warrior, Digital Explorer, right? Elite Vanguard, right? Whatever it might be. And these give you innovation capabilities, and you use these capabilities to be successful in the Cosmos metaverse, to produce innovation, right? To participate in the production of innovation. And so I think it's this enormous opportunity and changing landscape. And I think kind of what's happened is everyone, it's sort of, we've all tried to be a bit too clever for ourselves. We think we understand the future before it quite arrives. So this rush to Web 3.0 is, I think, just, I'm a bit skeptical of it, to be honest. I think it's just a large land grab something that ultimately doesn't have that much value. When I look at the usage numbers of virtual reality spaces, no one is hanging out in these spaces. And I don't think anybody will, because we're just not, why would you go there? Okay, you've got your plot of land in what's it called, Manor or something, right? Like, or wherever it might be. So what? What are you going to do? 5 years later, you're going to be sunbathing by the beach in your digital plot of land. No, you're not. You're really not, right? That's just not going to happen. And so I think what's happened is this sort of the agendas of the technosphere, maybe the technorati, to create this new golden age of Web 3.0 and NFTs and all this stuff has created in this sort of delusional aspect where I think they've actually missed the point. And or whether it's Meta rebranding itself as Meta and going into building this VR world, which honestly looks much crapper than all the world's games. I mean, you pour $10 billion into something and it looks amateurish, right? Now, that if that $10 billion has been poured into, I think, looking at the existing relationships that there are between people, like, for me, the obvious no-brainer for Facebook is you basically just visualize the social network. You get every single dot of human. You create this amazing visual space where you can see the lines between people, and then you can go ride around the line. So let's say, you and I are friends, and so we connect, and then you're friends with somebody else, and then I can just ride around, and that is your metaverse. That's it. It's the meaning matrix. It's the relationships. That is what Facebook should do. If they did that, or LinkedIn did that, you're gonna have instant. That's the reality, right? And so I think they kind of just really missed understanding the sort of the philosophical aspects of it. And often philosophy remains elusive, but at the same time, it's super important because it provides meaning and wisdom. And so this sort of headlong charge into Web3 is kind of, I don't think it's going to be successful. And so that's why I'm careful with Leadapreneur to not, there are useful technologies within it. I think blockchain is a foundational technology. It's important. I think NFTs will have a role to play. Yes, VR too in its own way, but it's not going to be what people think it is. It's going to go in a different direction. And I think that it's going to be around meaning. It's going to be around engaging people to rehumanize through the work that they do, from the transition from the management bureaucracy and the sort of the corporate 3.0 office to the industry 4.0 workspace, the innovation ecosystem, where you go to work. And you don't go to work by putting on some VR goggles. It's about participating in the meaning space.
Okay. I mean, thankfully, you added the part that it will go into another direction where we're sort of doing something with meaning, because I thought you're going to end it with, I don't know, I don't think it's going anywhere. And I was just going to remind you of, the .com era when the internet came and how people were so skeptical about it. But anyway, we have about 10 minutes. So let's talk a little bit about the app called 222. It's a bit tough to say, so I'm just going to say 222. And what they're doing is they're creating a Tinder for friends. So people like me who likes to dress up and play murder mystery night, I would go on it and find similar friends who are into it. So given that you are a big Tinder user, so what do you have to say about that?
Big Tinder user. I'm not sure I would categorize myself as that. But yeah, I do use it. Well, I mean, let's riff off that. Why not be transparent about my personal life a little bit? I mean, it's only the Leadapreneur podcast, so no doubt.
But I don't think it has to do anything with not being transparent or transparent. What does that? I don't think it means anything if someone is saying I use Tinder a lot or not so much or not on Tinder. It's your individualization, right? It's your identity, isn't it?
True. I mean, I personally prefer Bumble more, actually. That's why that's
okay.
Well, let's go back to 222. I mean, I think it sounds like a cool idea, right? Sounds like a cool idea. And because a lot of the times, meeting one person can just be so powerful. Like, I was very fortunate to meet a good friend called Paul, and a German guy here, and he got me into Warhammer. And the little models Warhammer was only because of him, really. Like, we just started hanging out. And said,
and you won the tournament as well.
Yeah, and then so accelerate time. And then last week I won my first tournament, which I was very proud of. And so, but I wouldn't have got into it without him, right? So I think that that ability to meet the right person to help you get into the right hobby, and really it's also, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, really the correct community, right? Community of practice. It's not just that I play Warhammer, it's I know other people, I mean, realistically, mainly guys, actually all guys who play Warhammer, and you know, we enjoy our super geekiness, right? So that sounds like a lovely idea, right? And if it can be made to work, great.
But wait, now I'm curious. Where did you meet Paul? On Tinder? Because we were talking about it, and then you're like, "Oh, I met Paul, and Paul got me into this game." So I'm like, now I'm curious.
Yeah, I know your mind is curious, Hannah. Yes, but no, I met Paul at an event at Common Ground. Yeah.
Okay, so it was the
Not on
power
Tinder.
of the physical world. But would you use it if 222 comes to Malaysia?
Well, you know, I think it'd be one of those things where I think the short answer is no, but it's something I would support because I just find I don't lack. I'm fortunate to have lots of good friends and be busy with my hobbies. So, you know, I'm fortunate in that. So, but you know, there might be a time when I wouldn't be, and so I might use it then offhand, right? Or because I imagine it might be something that it's sort of like you use it to find the connections, but then how do you keep participating in it? Let's say you're a bit, you know, you're a bit lonely, or you're looking for something new. You join, cool. You make some friends, cool. And I don't know anything about this, so I'm just thinking this out loud, right? But what would make me keep coming back to 222?
But you know, talking about using an app to build connection, that's sort of, it's making me reflect on the past few years, right? I have never heard of Bumble until recently. I mean, I did know about it when it launched, but then it sort of grew so much over a few years. And then we have also been seeing, like Kenny was saying, that the app that you use, or you book a friend and you have to pay for their time. Is it me, or are you seeing a lot of apps being made? What are you laughing about that? What, anyway, is it me, or are there a lot of apps being made where you build connection recently?
Well, that's just so essential for the human experience, isn't it? You know,
But it wasn't there
and I think,
before.
well, I mean, you could definitely pay friends to hang out with you. Yeah, that was there before, you know. So,
Wait, are you saying
and
seriously, or like there's some sarcasm or some joke that I'm not getting it?
well, there's lots of different types of friendship, Hannah, you know. So,
Okay.
right.
Okay, I got it.
Some friends you have for a long time, some friends you have for a short time, sometimes you have friends for a good time, right? So what matters is that you're open to meeting friends, right? And so I think humans have been doing this. I mean, I personally believe that technology, I think we were talking about this, right? Where technology tends to accelerate rather than necessarily completely reveal totally new things. So I think these things are generally already happening, and people want more of it. So they jump online to get more of it. And then the technology can rapidly accelerate things, right? So like people are already hooking up and dating with Tinder. But then when you download Tinder, your rate of hooking up and connecting can go exponential, basically, right? It's a question of how many times can you swipe, how many messages can you write, right? And all this kind of stuff, right? So whereas before your limitation tended to be, you know, your area of reach, influence, right? All these things, there's significant limitations to it. So, you know, I think we're seeing that acceleration component of technology there.
Okay, then very quickly, I would like your take on cost plus drugs that we have just shown in the video. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because when you look at the website, and also when you look at cost of drugs in the US, the website is saying that, you know, this particular medicine is going to cost you $39 if you buy with them. But if you go at any other companies, it's going to cost you $9,600. That's a huge gap. What would you have to say on that?
Well, if it is as true as it claims to be, and at the moment, I think I'm willing to believe that at least some of it is true. I think it's quite extraordinary, and I think it's courageous, and I think it's more, you know, what we might want to see is the next step of conscious capitalism. I think capitalism is important. I think democracy is important, but there's also significant limitations that we're seeing. For example, the US government just declined to pay railway road workers in the United States 7 days sick leave. Sorry. So I just don't think that's right. I just don't think it's right that you would deny your people sick leave. I think people are sick. Giving them 7 days a year, I don't think is unreasonable. So I think there has to be some element for capitalism to keep progressing. And I think what could be loosely termed as conscious capitalism, which in my mind is not just about the ruthless exploitation of the consumer as an entity to be extracted from, but really, we use the word prosumer at Leadapreneur, right? Someone who's proactively using and engaging with the offering that's being created for them. And so in a similar way, that makes them a human, that makes them someone to participate with, and recognizing that these people are ill, are sick, right? When you're sick, you realize how bad it is to be sick, right? It's easy to forget until you get really sick. And especially things can cascade, right? You get sick, you lose your job, this happens, that happens, right? There can be horrible circumstances. So it's so important, I think, for a civilized society to provide on-ramps for people to get back up again. And I think that affordable offering is going to be so important for America. I mean, that's one of the sad things there, that people are faced with so many burdens around their healthcare. And I just think at the end of the day, the concept of being in a democracy, and certainly from what I understand it means to be American, means that everyone should have the opportunity to pursue their dream. But burdening their recovery of that dream by whatever thousands of dollars versus charging them $100, I think that is the right thing to do. And I think America will become stronger for it. Because what we see is that every time that we choose to develop people and we choose to advance human rights, the economy improves and increases, right? We got rid of the slave trade, and that was seen as catastrophic at the time, but it actually unlocked the next level of industrialization and took Western society forward. And so every time we the civil rights movement, for example, has also advanced American society, and in its versions in Europe as well. So that's such an important element to it. And so I think it's a really powerful mission. I support it 100%. And I hope we get to see more of that, more conscious capitalism. Bring it on.
Definitely, yeah. So thank you so much for your time. And I would like to remind our listeners to believe in yourself, be brave, be bold, and build your better world. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Leadapreneurs YouTube channel to get your weekly updates.